All right. Welcome to the coffee break, the APS Outlet Platform Services coffee break. This is the episode number 61, and I'm using a special icon image for this week because we are doing the football soccer World Cup. So yeah, it's like a teamed one. All right. So as usual, let me start with you. If you have any questions or topics that you'd like to bring up, there's a chance. Just open your microphone. You're welcome to, talk about projects you are working on. Anything interesting? I see a few repeated names and a few new names. Any interesting projects? Or people are very shy this week? I know that we have on our side, there's lots going on. I think the main thing is that it's not really, super technical, but the Forge team will be doing, the APS team, APS support team will be taking some time off by the end of the year. So starting on the 19th all the way to the January 2nd, 2 weeks and 1 day. Most of the support will be off. So if you have questions, please make sure that you send those questions before the break. But yeah, I mean, Henny, I hope you're having good plans for the holidays as well. All right. Any topics or questions or projects that you're working on? Let me stop sharing so I can see everyone. What did I do here? No, come back. And I need nothing. So people are very quiet today. Okay, so let me get then. And that's what's happening here. It's weird. Let's move to the other screen. That's why. And I did open all of that, but I'd lose it. Okay, so usually one interesting thing is see what are the blogs and samples that we have on. So let me share one of them here. Here. So there was one very interesting from Michael on how to do debugging with CodePen. So we did some experimentation with CodePen before a while back with Petra as well, but now Michael did something different. And I believe in this case, we're coming the models from BIM 360, right, Michael? And if you're there. Or maybe not.
Sorry, what was that?
So I was just saying that we did this kind of experimentation with CodePen before, but this time you are getting the project from BIM 360, but you just have to
Yes,
specify
that's
the
right.
hub and the access token, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so if you're debugging, if you're doing any kind of debugging work with BIM 360 ACC, and yeah, you want to just experiment with CodePen, this is an approach to do that. It's a way of being able to say, let's say someone's having trouble with a particular model and an extension that you're working on. This is a great way to put the code into CodePen and access to the model, and just sort of share that link with someone else so they can also work on that same code and figure out what the problem is.
Oh, yeah. It's quite interesting that CodePen allow us to, no, it is possible to do viewer debugging there. I think one of the main challenges with CodePen, right, it's that it doesn't handle right the token. So that's why we need some server side or some way to access the token. But other than that, it works. So it's an interesting approach as well. Yeah,
Yeah,
very
it's a
nice
really,
idea.
really, really quick way to, without having to worry about setting up the app integration and setting up a server. It's all sort of handled there by, using CodePen and the token.
Yeah,
So it's kind of a very low effort way of accessing those three-legged hubs.
yeah, very good. All right, so let me
Yeah, I was
get
using
back.
it for I was using it for a couple of projects, which is kind of ironic. It's how it sort of came up. It was like trying to explain in the code what was going on. It was a problem with some snapping stuff and and markup, and the coordinate systems weren't matching up. So it was really hard to debug, and it was specific to 2 different files. And yeah, this was just one way to share that code and be able to debug the model without having to get a copy of it and download it and work on it.
Yeah. I keep trying to remember what is the Wallaby way. You said it is something from Australia that I keep forgetting what it is, but is it like a cartoon or something? You mentioned it once.
Wallabies are, I guess, unique to
Wallabies.
Australia. Yeah, it's an animal like a kangaroo, a small version of a kangaroo.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
Cool.
it's always related to Australia. Ironically, there are wallabies in the southern part of New Zealand, so they're not native to just, well, they're not just in Australia.
Cool. All right. All right. So let me get back to audience. I mean, do you have any questions or topics? Feeling less shy now?
Hello.
Hi, Moses.
Hi. I'm afraid I have a question, and I say afraid because many times my questions are not very articulate in terms
Go
of
ahead.
the technical portion. But I've been looking at the data exchange API and or the data exchange service. I think it's in a beta now where you can select a portion of the model and set up the data exchange and connect it to Power Automate and send parameter data to different parts of the to different team members. My question is, one thing that I like about it is that it seems as though you don't necessarily have to have a Autodesk. Oh God, I forget the new name. ADP.
APS.
APS. You don't have to have an APS app permissioned on the hub. It seems as though to do that workflow. And so what I wanted to know, if I use the data exchange API, do I need to have the APS app permission on the hub? Because sometimes it's not our hub. Sometimes it's someone else is hosting the project. If I'm making myself clear.
Yeah. So so let me just about why we need the app to be provisioned in the account, right? So
right.
That is a mandatory step because BIM 360 ACC, they are enterprise products meant for companies. So it's always important that the company accepts or approve the app before an individual in that company can use the app. So the provisioning is required every time an app is going to access data, even if the app is only accessing the data on behalf of the user, right? So the provisioning is always required.
Okay, so that's required for data exchange API or any API.
Any data that any API that will read and write data from an ACC BIM 360 hub account, right? It's you need to provision the admin of the account needs to approve the app before any individual or even the app, right, can use that data, can read that data.
Okay, understood. It just seemed as though if I use the module, well, I guess even in that case, it's provisioned the data exchange, and I'm referring to the data exchange beta that's available. It seemed as though that wasn't a necessary step, but it's always a necessary step actually to have it provisioned.
Yeah. So yes, the app needs to be provisioned before can use the API.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool. What are you using the data exchange for? What are your plans there?
Well, I wanted to use it as a way to access bill of materials and Revit warnings. I'm not even sure that's possible. I was just kicking the tires on it, but it seemed like an easier way to access different projects if they were on someone else's hub and not our hub, because I think there was a conversation about this maybe 2 weeks ago or a couple of weeks ago. How does one go about accessing the data or setting up a function if they don't necessarily have the app provisioned on another hub?
Yeah. So I think one important point to note is that the data exchange, there is an API and there is a service or a feature in the ACC, right? So
Right.
the API is just a way to read and write the same data, but remember, consider that you can also share between users, right? So I'm on my company and I'm sharing with next outside user, right? And
Right.
that user, that outside person, is also part of the project. That's why they have access to that data, but the app is running on the same account, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So the data exchange service can be used between users who already have permission on a project.
That's my understanding. I think Dennis is here. He may know that detail better, but I believe so.
Yeah, I think, when you started asking your question, you were asking about Power Automate. And so that connector is already available to use when a model is shared between users. But like Augusto said, when you're working on an app, it has to be provisioned in that account. And then it's about whether or not you have access to the model or not.
Okay. All right.
So Power Automate, being kind of also a feature, if you share that with someone outside of your company or whatever, they can still access it through Power Automate because they have access to the model. I believe that's how it works.
Okay. And I guess in particular, I have a question. If I'm using that Power Automate service between users, and it seems as though a necessary step is I have to choose a part of the model that Power Automate can access, or it's a part that's published for Power Automate.
Yes. So data exchange itself fundamentally requires you to create a view in your Revit model that has the components that you want to share, and you publish that to an exchange. And then once that exchange is available in ACC docs, then that can be, shared like a model.
Okay, so that part right there that you just mentioned, I was hoping that there was a way to automate that or replicate that on a batch of projects, but then that would take me back to the API side, and then I need permission to provision it on different hubs. So that it seems as though that's the situation, correct?
Yeah, honestly, I don't believe you could automate that entire process because, first of all, inside of Revit, you can automate creating the views and the components that you want in that view. But as I understand it, that publish facility doesn't have an API. So just automating that publishing to ACC docs is not automatable today.
There is a publish command in data management, right? Is that the one you're talking about?
You know how in Revit, in order to publish your model and have the views be available in ACC docs, there's a publish dialog, and you have to select the views that are going to be available in ACC docs. And that,
oh, you mean, yeah, select which views you want, right? Okay, yeah.
Right. And I talked to Mikako a few months ago, and I don't believe there's an API for that yet.
Yeah. So now we're talking a Revit API.
Yes.
To do that. Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But once you have those views selected and you are just checking in with Central on your work shared model, right? You can force a publish using a data management API to force a publish. because then that will get all the changes you did and put that into a new published version of that module, which is a different thing, but no, it's part of that workflow.
Okay. Okay, I understand now. Thanks for the clarification. That's very helpful.
Yeah. By the way, I believe we did record the data days for data exchange, right? And you can always watch that recording that contains lots of details on how the API works. And it's still in beta. We're still developing that. And if that's for you, Moses, and everyone else, right? If you have feedback on that API, that's the time. It's still in beta. That's the perfect time to collect those changes.
Can I find that recording on the blog website?
I suspect so.
Yeah, let me see if I can find it. I'll post the link.
All right, thanks, Kevin.
I have a follow-up question for you based off of what Moses was just talking about. When it comes to middleware, is there certain middleware like Power Automate, ACC Connect that you guys use that you can recommend? Just for automating some of these APIs without having to build, say, a Node.js project or .NET.
So what are you looking to do, Troy?
Just to enable maybe some non-development people to be able to do some automations, make it a little bit easier. I really like Power Automate. We've done some ACC Connect. But I was just wondering if you guys use any that you can recommend outside of those two, or if those are the main ones that you use.
Yeah, so the one that I know, it's ACC Connect. That's the one that is in Beamtree in the ACC, right?
Yeah.
It uses Workato, so it's very powerful. I haven't seen anything similar to those two, or as powerful as ACC Connect.
Okay.
But if I'm curious if that is missing anything for you.
Well, we've kind of used as much of the built-in connector for BIM 360 and cost, and so we're doing our own REST API calls that aren't in those connectors, and so we're just kind of trying to see if there's other platforms like now with Data Exchange and Power Automate. If Autodesk is going to just keep using some of these platforms, or if there's going to be a concerted effort to build a fully encompassed connector, or if they're just for us as examples, which that's what it kind of feels like with Power Automate, is it's more of an example of how to use it. So I didn't know if there was like a path forward that like this is the platform we're going to have a fully connector built out for all the API endpoints. Okay,
so the ACC Connect, right? It's using the APIs, but the benefit there is that you have this very UI version, easy UI version for that, right? You can just drag and drop what you want to do and prepare your workflow.
Yeah.
Now, on the other hand, there is the data connectors part of data exchange, part of our future approach on how we move data between us and other systems and other systems and us, right? The connectors are really around data, not about the main focus is data. How can you move data, but not really workflow automation, right? So let's say you want to do this when that happened, right? So this is more ACC Connect. You have triggers, you have events that happen at certain points, right? Which is different from the connector, which is I'm in this product and I want to move data from here to there, right? I'm on Revit and I want to move data to Power Automate, right? So I'm using the connector approach to move data from one to the other, but it's not really about automation in that case. So I think those are two different things. They may eventually converge, but no, I don't think that's the plan right now to converge those two. And to your second part of the question, what is the Power Automate? Is this a sample or is this like a developer thing? No, I think that this is really an end user experience that we are working on. It's still in beta, it's still very, very early, but that's where we are heading, right? So we can have end user version of those connectors, and you as a developer can create a new connector or even expand an existing connector for your specific workflow.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I'm interested in, is being able to have an environment for, that low code type of user that they could create some of their own automations without having to, learn how to be, to learn like Node.js or .NET, to kind of empower them to create their own simple automations or data extractions.
That's definitely today. That's more on the ACC Connect
Okay.
realm, right? This kind of automation.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's so always an interesting point, right? How to make life easier to automate something, but the further you go, the more it gets close to programming, right, itself. So there is this fine line. Is this like an automation tool, or is this writing code? So it's mingling there. One of the interesting pieces about ACC Connect, is that you can create. I think Dynamo does something like that as well, right? That you can use existing pieces, but you can write your own piece and connect that to the main flow, right? So that's eventually something that could happen, right? You have a lot of predefined rules, and then you just create a new piece of that puzzle that you can write some code there to do something that is a bit more complex.
Yeah, I definitely see that as the future for a lot of companies being able to, have these, I guess you call them scripts or recipes, and being able for a user to be able to say, well, like I need to create like a bill of materials for my model, and I don't have Revit. I do have, BIM 360 or Docs. Can I just create a recipe that, formats it and pulls the data that I need without having to go and build, an entire program to do that? So I definitely see that would enable a lot more people to use the platform than today.
Yeah, but what we are talking there is really data, right? It's not automation, right? You're just the only thing that is automation there is to update your bill of materials once the model changes, right? But that's one of the things about data connectors, is that it reacts to new data. There is an event going on, right? But other than that, you're just reformatting data in that case, right?
Yeah, and I think the automation part that I'm thinking of is taking it into another platform. So say like an ERP or another construction platform, maybe for a subcontractor that's using another platform or something like that. And again, you're right. It's moving data, but it's shaping that data to fit that other endpoint.
Yeah. So that's the idea of the connectors, right? So if you have this other system somewhere that needs to connect the data and get this bill of material, you don't need you eventually you don't need something in the middle. You can just build a connector for that ERP system. So that ERP system, there is a connector there that will push and pull data from an exchange. So one of the things that we are working on, and I believe it's in beta or will be in beta soon, it's in connector SDK. So you can help. We can do most of the work around connectors, and then you can just add your specific rule, right? Like how can we push and pull data? We have that as part of the SDK, and then you just add your small piece there that is I'm reformatting the data this way. Kevin knows most of the details there. I mean, is it in beta, Kevin, or it's coming up soon?
So the individual components are in beta. So the REST API for reading the data, and then there's the geometry SDK to get the geometry piece. So the engineering team is in process to merge those two components together and build a complete SDK. I believe they're going to focus on .NET, so it'll be language specific as well. And that will be it's being planned for towards the end of January timeframe for a beta on that complete SDK. So the functionality is kind of there today, but to get it kind of wrapped up and kind of language specific, that SDK should come by the end of January.
Awesome.
Yeah, stay tuned for details there. So we're definitely going to talk more about this here once this is out. And yeah, lots of documentation and sample coming up.
Yeah, I think the other thing worth mentioning here is that Data Exchange is also going to adopt the GraphQL layer. So, for reading data, especially GraphQL is a little bit more intuitive. It allows you to kind of get granular data, just get the data that you kind of want. And it's much more kind of user friendly. There's explorers available where you can just type queries in and kind of play with it to see what kind of data is available and how it's structured. So that's also in beta, in private beta today. We should be bringing that to a public beta within a month or so.
It's exciting. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, lots of new things coming up. All right. Any other questions or topics? Thanks, Troy. Very interesting topic. Okay, so we do have, changing a bit topics, we do have an accelerator coming next week and one the week after. So that will be very intense couple of weeks for us. And if you have any projects that you want to work on, so for Dublin next week will be on site and virtual, and São Paulo as well will be on site and virtual. Most of the virtual people will be joining Dublin, but if you still have some projects to work on during São Paulo, you can also attend virtually or on site. I'm not sure if anyone here is going to there in this one, but yeah. And yeah, so those are and we have San Francisco late January. So if you're planning to, if you're in the US or in the West Coast, there's also a good chance for you. With that, last chance for questions. So the next coffee break is coming. Oops, what did I do here? Yeah, next coffee break is coming on the December 14th. So that will be the last one of the year. And then we're taking a break from on the support. And we'll, if you have any outstanding questions, please send them as soon as possible. And the team will be offline from the 19th all the way to the 2nd. So if you have any questions, it's better to send it before December 9. So you have some time to answer you and close up those questions. So, but with that, there should be a very interesting rest for everyone during the holidays. And Moses, there is a question. An accelerator bootcamp already scheduled for next year? Yes, we have one for San Francisco in January, end of January, February timeframe. All right. With that, thank you very much for joining today. Hope you enjoyed. And if you're watching the World Cup, probably there's some game going on today. So yeah, have fun.
Yesterday's was very exciting.
Oh yeah, which one was yesterday? US and Iran?
US, Iran, yeah.
Yeah, I saw that afterwards. Yeah, very cool. And they went to the round of 16, right?
Yeah, US won. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool.
It was yeah, down to the wire.
Yeah, there was pretty big excitement in those last few minutes.
Australia is playing today, right, Michael? Or
I
did they
think
play
it's
already?
today, yes. Yeah. We've already played, but we're playing again, yeah.
Okay, cool. Cool, I'll see. All right, thanks guys. See you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.